Lions and tigers and Alfie, oh my.
Now dig on this.
What is up, and welcome to Classic Movie Banter.
Hello
you know
there.
that podcast where me, that old man Brenton, and that other guy over there, that British pal Nathan.
Oh, blimey, me britches, I got me palm in me pocket.
That's terrible. We'll talk about films that are 20 years or older, or more specifically in this case,
55 years in 2 days.
Thank you very much, Nathan. We tell you, our special friends, if those films are still worth watching today or not. And more specifically, if they're worth getting all your mates and friends and family members and distant relatives.
And hitting on all of them.
Yeah, and hitting on all of them and having a great old time. Because, Nathan, this week, we are going back a few years, and we're talking about... Well, I'm just going to get straight into it. We're talking about Alfie.
Oh,
now, Nathan,
boy.
can you tell us why we are talking about the 1966 version of Alfie?
Well, what we're doing this year, as regular listeners of the show know, is that we're trying to do movies that you guys want us to review. We're going to try and get through as many people's suggestions as we can. Because, you know, we love hearing from you guys and having titles brought to our attention. Case in point, a guest we had on the show not too long ago, who reviewed The Graduate with us, Logan, wrote into the show, and he suggested the film Alfie. He wrote to us, he said, "Hey Nathan and Brenton, since you boys love The Graduate, you should also watch Alfie. It has the same age dynamic, but Michael Caine is a lot more confident than Dustin Hoffman. Have a good one, Logan." So, based on The Graduate, we should be talking about Alfie. So, thanks, Logan. Thanks for that suggestion.
It certainly gives you an idea of what we were kind of in for, but nevertheless, thank you very much, Logan, for writing in, and you can write into the show via email and tell us what you want us to review.
Yeah, because here we are, because of this email, we're here to talk about bloody Alfie. Celebrating its 55 years this week.
Exactly, because it was released in 1966, and get this, it was directed by Lewis Gilbert, who also directed that old Bond movie from 1979, Moonraker, starring Roger Moore. So that's a heck of a filmography, if ever there was one. So Nathan, now that we've got all of that jargon out of the way, now that that is all gone, can you tell me right now?
Now that we've gotten the intro out of the way, mate, sit me down here in London town and pitch for me the movie Alfie, why don't you? Can you pitch me the movie?
There's been this play, right? There's been this play that's been playing all over the way. It's been on...
Just
it's
the
been,
one.
In London, you know, setting the world on fire, you know.
Oh, wow.
It's just been going crazy. And Terence Stamp, who was also in... We reviewed in Priscilla, Queen of the Desert.
Yes.
Is playing Alfie in the titular character in this one play.
Oh,
and then you know what? Some fine folk go and see that play and they go, you know what? This would make a grand movie here in the 60s. And they say, Terence, do you want to come play the part? And Terence says, no, but I reckon you should meet my old roommate, Michael Caine. And they go, oh, okay. Michael Caine, no one knows who he is, but his name sounds like the second part of cocaine, am I right? And Michael walked in the room and was like, sniff, niff. I'm not sniffing the devil's dandruff. And they said, right, you aren't. He's perfect for the role. And so he gets this role. And what is Alfie? Well, let me tell you. Alfie is a movie about Alfie, who is a man...
Who would have thought?
...who goes around and has various interactions of a sexual nature with women who are either already in relationships, have a significant age difference from him, whether older or younger. He doesn't discriminate.
No, he really doesn't.
And or they are married.
So wait a minute. Is this movie based on you, Brenton?
Not quite. Not quite, you know.
Crosses that off the list.
Yeah, all the listeners just checked out. You know, our listenership just like dropped off instantly.
Yeah.
No, but he goes around basically living this lavish swinger kind of lifestyle. And whilst he's doing this, he's talking to us directly, the audience, because he's looking at the camera every 2 seconds and narrating exactly what it is he's doing.
That's what I've always wanted, you know, if Deadpool was more sexual.
I don't know if that was... Well, I didn't think that was possible before, but now it definitely is. Nathan, here's the thing. You think that now I've said that premise, that obviously this guy is, you know, swinging around, you know, having relationships, sexual relationships with various women, and, you know, ruining lives with left, right, and center, and yet, you know, still talking to us as though everything's fine and dandy, you know, complete narcissist. You'd think that there was a point that there would be a climactic event that would happen that would change everything, or there'd be like a dramatic event, because throughout history, storytelling has told us that, like, storytelling storytellers need that structure to give their story meaning,
It's
to give it
true.
stakes.
This is all very true, Brenton.
Alfie has none of that shit.
No, it doesn't.
Alfie just continues on his way for around 2 hours.
Yeah, we just watch him fucking about with women for 2 hours straight.
But we're just left to pick up the pieces and try and solve the enigma that is Alfie. And Nathan, that is Alfie. Like, I literally have nothing else to say about it. Like,
Yeah.
like
You're not
what
wrong.
else is there to add?
I'm sitting here in my movie producer chair, and you're painting me a portrait, right? You're quite literally painting me a portrait, and it's Michael Caine leaning over a vulnerable woman. And I'm like, would I want to see this for 2 hours? And I'm like, you know what? The general public probably will, because this fucker made bank. So it's the 60s. It's misogynistic. Here we go. Let's find out what's going on.
This is point in case a time when the film was such a product of its time.
Oh, jeez, yeah.
It is so 60s. It is so British. It is so like... Well, let's get into it, because now that I've kind of pitched you this movie, I really want to hear what you think about this, Nate. Because as our listeners know, we have no idea what the other thinks of the film.
No. We never really clarify it that often for new listeners. We should remind them more often that we don't know what we think going into these shows.
I've got no clue. Nathan might love this thing. He might hate it. He might be somewhere in between.
Yeah.
But he's about to tell us. Nathan, tell us, what are your thoughts, man? Like,
The pitch is very telling, Brenton, as a reflection of my emotions on this film. Because you're right, like, it is 2 hours of Michael Caine fucking about. And, like, to a degree, that premise alone sounds really, like, enticing. You're like, oh, okay, let's see if he learns anything. But, like, I have issues with this movie, Brenton. I have a lot of issues with this movie. And it's funny, Logan recommended it to me, and my mate James said he also watched it and he said he hated it. So I went in knowing it had mixed reception. For a lot of this movie, I was kind of going like, what's the story? What's the point to any of this? Like, why are we watching Michael Caine just successfully go through? It feels like just like a short play, like compilation. It's just like different scenes of Michael Caine like just fucking up relationships, that kind of stuff. It's only at the very end, like the very, very end, that we kind of get a thesis or maybe a hint as to what the film's trying to do, at least in my opinion.
Yeah.
So like at the end, I was like, that's what the movie's trying to do. But for me, Brendan, it kind of came a little bit late. Like I spent a lot of this movie scratching my head going like, what am I doing? I don't know, mate. Like, did you love it? Where are you sitting? Because I haven't made up my mind yet. I haven't made up my mind.
okay, so this is coming from someone that has made up their mind, I think.
Oh, okay.
I completely agree with everything you just said. And
Oh,
I
thank
think
God.
that what you just said is so telling as to what I think of the movie, because I think that's not really good enough.
I agree.
There's one positive element here, and I think that you can see this being the breakout role for Michael Caine. I can see why he
Yes.
went on to have the career he did. He has got charisma in spades. You know, he's got such a presence on screen.
Yeah.
He's someone that you can see why he's gone on to play various roles. But at the same time, you know, like this movie
Drags, doesn't it?
yeah, it drags. It is. You mentioned thesis before, and I think that I understood the thesis that we were meant to condemn this man for his actions, like
Right.
half an hour into the movie, and then it just kept banging you over the head with what a shitty dude this guy was.
And that's the most annoying thing. He's got no redeeming features.
That's right.
Like
That's
none.
right.
Like literally none.
But here's the thing as well. What was such a shame for it is that there was moments in this early on that you thought the dramatic question was going to be asked. And in those moments, like there was promise for something else that could have happened that would have given this film like a driven plot,
Yeah.
given it
Framing, structure.
Yeah, exactly. So that those moral questions could be asked in a way that was interesting and entertaining. But at the same time, I just feel like you're right. Probably the last like 10 to 15 minutes of this movie kind of kick into gear and you see where it's been headed the whole time.
Yeah. And it's powerful.
Yeah, but we knew that we're headed in that direction. You know what I mean? Like at the start of the movie, we knew something had to give at some point.
This sounds very similar to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, where the ending, it all makes sense. We're heading in a certain direction.
Okay. That's an interesting comment, though, because I would say that Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, there was still a diversity of tone in that movie that kept it
That's true.
a little more...
it wasn't monotonous like this thing, was it? Like...
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just such the same thing over and over again.
And like, it's so weird that the screenplay chooses to do this, because like he does a scene where he's an arsehole to a woman, and such a fucking arsehole, like even for 1960s standards arsehole, like, which is saying something. And then and you see him do this, and he just gets worse and worse and worse, and you're like, what's the point of all this? Like you know?
I think you understand the point, though. You understand, like, oh yeah, that's a bad action. That's a bad thing this man has done. Any sane person will understand this. Like, any sane person will get that message and be like, oh yeah, what a shitty thing to do, and then move on with their day and not think about it. Like, there's nothing that's really challenging your audience apart from the fact of like, yeah, there's shitty people, individuals in the world.
Yeah, I think I feel like the film is like more shocking than it is. It's just like, oh yeah, we're so avant-garde. Oh, look at Michael Caine, he's kissing all these girls, and it's like, one, we don't actually see him like do anything besides kissing. So from the 2021 perspective, we're just like, oh, okay, sure.
Well, it's implied.
Yeah. Brett just like leans over to me on the couch. He's like, I think I know what they're doing behind the closed door. And I'm like, well done, Brent. Like, little pat.
Nathan, I think I know what that musical tone means and why the camera just panned away. I think I know what's going to happen.
Is it sex?
I think they're going to watch Play School. I don't know. Like, who knows?
No, I hope not. They're making a very different movie. I mean, you know, it's just funny as well. I've never found music so prevalent in a conversation about a movie's themes, because the jazz soundtrack, the way, and it's beautiful. Like, we get this great jazz music, but the way it's used in the film, it kind of makes you kind of go, oh, don't you want to be this cool, suave, like sexy Michael Caine who's like picking up all these old birds, you know? Yeah, like, wah, wah, you know what I mean? Like, it goes for that. The film feels like an abusive relationship, Brenton. It feels like it leans you in for a kiss and then just slaps you in the face. It's like, no, you can't have this naughty audience. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't watch a movie to be abused, Brenton.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. I think I'm trying to think of a movie that did this better.
I can.
Yeah, what is it, Nathan?
It's one we reviewed. It's Martin Scorsese. He directed Robert De Niro. That Joker was inspired by. It's bloody that one.
King of Comedy.
King of Comedy. Yeah, King of Comedy, where we watch an arsehole get worse and worse and worse, but we can see it escalate, and it has a narrative sense of tension.
Well, what's interesting is that I was going to say that Marty Scorsese does this really well. I think that like it's not only just that movie. I think it's a lot of Marty's films. Wolf of Wall Street.
Yes.
Bloody Goodfellas. Raging Bull, you could argue. You know, like these movies are all about identifying the depths of basically a monstrous personality and why that person is the way that is, and how easy it can be to make those immoral choices and to lose yourself.
And where the hero is their own villain.
Yeah, exactly. And like, you know, there's no happy endings in those stories. They get their comeuppance, and it's like, you know, those are films in excess. They're movies that are like beating over the head with the thing, but it's still, again, it's got a diversity of tone enough. It's got humor, like actual humor that's funny.
Yeah.
It's got it's got dramatic moments. It doesn't. It's got it's got a good soundtrack. It's got these things that kind of lure you in, and then it'll beat you with the message and be like, this is no way to live. You know,
the film treats you like Michael Caine treats the women.
Exactly.
Luring you in, then treats us like a sack of shit.
You used the word monotonous before, and I think that was a perfect summation of just kind of...
It's just the same things. The girls could be interchangeable at this point. It's like...
Yeah.
I liked the first girl because she probably had the most to do over the whole arc of the movie.
Which one? Sorry? The first one. The first one. The very first girl in the car at the start?
Yeah, who actually had like the most to do over the whole film. And like that, I liked her because like we had kind of got an arc with her, and like it affects Michael a little bit. But like the whole movie, I was waiting for him to fucking start learning. It's like you're sitting next to a kid and they're just doing 2 + 2, and I'm like, kid, it's fucking 4. It's like, come on, the shit ain't complicated. It's like, come on.
And then there was a moment that he seemed to show some human emotion. He seemed to like crack.
Yeah.
Not to spoil anything, but there was the moment that you kind of had the dramatic climactic moment of the film, and then the very next scene, it just went back to oh, Michael Cocaine, and like, oh, yeah, when I have a bird, I like to pluck it. And it's like, all right, cool, dude. Like, thanks for that. Like, thanks for that insight into humanity. Seriously, into the male perspective, and you know why things go wrong sometimes. It's just like,
and it's so funny because like I look at this film, right, and I remember like hearing about this movie. Right? I've heard about this movie for fucking years, and I was like, oh, Alfie, Michael Caine, you're fucking Alfie, and like there's such an adoration for him in that movie, and how like men wanted to be him back in the 60s. But like I'm looking at the way he treats his women, and I'm like, I feel like in media, if you're like, you know, you're a bachelor and you're picking up girls and that kind of stuff, you're living this kind of free ass lifestyle, like I feel like the way he's doing it is such a decrepit way. You know what I mean? Like he's so he's so sad and he's so miserable, and you can so clearly see it. But the way he talks to the audience, it's like he's like a salesman. He's like, no, this is fun. It's like a birthday party where there's like 2 people left, and he's like, no, it's still fun. I'm like, mate, the party's fucking over. It's like, come on.
Yeah.
Like blow out the candles.
I just think as well, like, you know, we brought up, that was a really good point, by the way, but like just to continue on that as well, like in terms of like framing this character for its audience, in terms of like filmmaking, this movie, you know, we brought up Scorsese before. Who's
one of the greats. Yeah.
Yeah, and can use all these tools at his disposal to really tell his story and invoke his message to the audience.
Yeah.
The filmmakers are just doing nothing here to keep, you know, at least the audience's like gaze on the screen.
The lighting's shit. The direction's boring.
The cinematography, nothing's really going into it. The way the camera's placed, the sound design's terrible. There was nothing, like, I was dozing off for like the first half an hour.
Oh, same. And that's like the whole moment is meant to hook us, you know what I mean? It's like...
Yeah, exactly.
Alfie's not even funny. Like, he keeps on acting though he thinks he's funny. Like, he's like, oh, the fucker thing with birds. And he's just like, oh, here we go.
Here's another thing. When I was doing some research, like basic research before I watched the movie, just so I kind of know what the genre it's going for, who the director is, the people involved. I don't really look at the plot or those elements, of course.
Yeah.
Alfie, this is the Wikipedia page, by the way, the free encyclopedia. They don't sponsor this channel, but you know.
What a valuable source, Brenton. You go to the real deep dives.
Yeah, exactly. So just listen to this. Alfie is a 1966 British romantic comedy drama film.
Back up 4 steps. Rom-com? Rom-com?
Like,
this is Michael Caine abusing women for 2 fucking hours. What's rom-com about that?
But it was meant, I think, to be funny to a certain extent. I think there was an intention here there was going to be some hilarity in these circumstances. And for me, it just never achieves anywhere near close to that level, close to that genre. It's absolutely ridiculous.
There's really awkward moments. I did laugh now and then because of just the fucking sheer audacity Michael Caine has sometimes with the way he'll get women. Or there's just like really awkward moments. Like just the sound design's done really terribly. So like all the editing's weird. So like there'll be an awkward pause after something. Yeah. As in like if it was made for a cinema where like, people applaud and I'm like, nah, man, I'm not fucking applauding. So it's really funny.
Yeah. And also, like, I think a lot of the jokes, like, because in the narration, there's a lot of, like, one-liners where Cocaine's looking to the screen and, like, you know, raising an eyebrow and saying, you know, some just silly one-liner that's, you know, not that great and, you know, doesn't really provide any insight into the character or what's going on. It's just the same drizzle it's just the same drizzle over and over again. And so you're just like... I think this is meant to be funny, but it's not.
No.
So,
and I can see where the humor comes from because it's so outlandish, right? Like even in the 60s, people have been like, "This is not how you bloody treat women" and all that kind of stuff. So like, it's not like we're looking at it because it's from the 60s. It's like even now, it's ridiculous. Like let alone then.
Absolutely.
Well, so I'm looking at this humor, right? This humor that Michael Caine is trying, and he's not fucking funny. Like I wouldn't trust Alfie to do any stand up. So instead, I'm looking at him. And I'm like, what are we learning from this, right? He keeps on calling like girls it. He refuses to acknowledge their gender, and he keeps on calling girls birds. So this is probably the most sexist movie we've reviewed so far.
Absolutely, yeah.
So I'm looking at this then, Brenton. I'm going, what am I learning from this arsehole being sexist? What am I getting from it, you know?
And the thing is that whether or not like the character really had to learn the depths of their mistakes is like another conversation entirely. I don't know if that's necessarily the answer. No. I just think, because this movie could have played out, I don't really want to spoil it, but this movie could have played out and just...
It can be a tragedy where the hero, you know, they have their harmonia, their tragic flaw.
He's an arsehole through and through, and that's, you know, what we learn from the movie, and it's watching this guy wreak havoc around, you know, around these people, and maybe that's how he loses the people in his life.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, there's no one that you really care about in this movie. In these movies,
especially not Michael Caine, which is the movie's biggest sin.
I mean, you care about the victims, you know. Specifically, there's one that you probably care about the most. But at the same time, it's hard to like really believe these scenarios. And like, I get that it's trying to show how outlandish, you know, some men are in the way they try to conquer women, and how disgusting that can be, and how like simply it can happen. But because of this, it's still not grounded. It's still not totally believable. And so you're just watching, like you said, from a gaze of 1966. Yeah. Just these women fall prey to this person, like very easily, to this person that is just...
It's almost like a horror movie. It's like a horror movie where we're at like at the villain's perspective. You know what I mean? I feel like I'm watching these poor young girls. I'm like, every time these girls meet Michael Caine, I'm just like, run. like run away. Totally. Like go.
I couldn't agree more. There was moments in this movie where I was literally speaking to the screen going, just go. Like, what are you doing? Like, just what is there about this man that is just so attractive, or like, you know, so suave, or whatever it is that you're, or you know, humorous, that you find attractive in this particular person? It's like nothing. It's not funny. The movie wants you to make it believe that it's funny and that there's witty one-liners, but they're not.
Its
funny.
lesson is extremely simplistic. Yep, like exactly. Everyone knows the lesson before even going into this movie. And the weirdest thing it fails at is that we don't ever see the consequences. There's so many opportunities and so many fucking women where like it can go wrong for Michael Caine, but he just keeps like slipping through the fingers. Like the only time there's only maybe consequences are introduced much later in the movie, but by the time maybe if consequences rock up, it's far too late. It's far too late.
Agreed.
And you know what? Maybe I like the ending because I'm like, oh look, a consequence. I'm actually learning something from this. I'm getting something from this.
Totally. Yeah.
And maybe you should also know that this film gets dark. This film gets fucking dark.
Yeah.
Some of the darkest stuff we've seen in cinema, at least on this show. So like,
Yeah, I'd agree, actually, yeah.
do you want to rate it, mate?
You're fond of me lobster, ain't you?
Yeah, I'm ready to rate it because
Yeah.
I got some actual real notes to talk about in spoilers
Yeah.
too, of just things that I need to talk about in terms of the plot.
Because like, my biggest question for you, Brenton, is who is this for? Like what audience is this made for? Like,
I don't know if it's for any audience, to be honest, which
no.
is surprising.
It's just for Michael Caine's like home movie theater, just like. Look at me, I'm an actor.
Well, but like at the same time, we can't just play it off as like this movie isn't for anyone because this movie did find an audience when it came out.
And it made huge amounts of money. Like,
Yeah. So I'm gonna say I actually, you know what? I'm not gonna say who I know the audience is. I want our audience to also talk about this as well. You
Yeah.
know, like tell us what if you enjoyed this movie. Like, no hate from us. Like I just truly want to understand it.
yeah.
So like
if you have family members who are around or you were around back in the 60s when this came out, like what was it like back then? Like was it like, in the same way that we criticize Bond for being like, this shit's fucking tame now. It's like was this so jarring watching Michael Caine treat these women like this? Like what was the emotional response there? Because to be frank with you, I felt pretty flat during this.
But going from my personal perspective on this, I think I've said my piece. I think monotony is a great word to use when describing this. I think it's I think that it's simplistic, but not in a good way. It's not as jarring as the filmmakers think it is, and it's not as funny. And for that, I just give it a thumbs down. I will never watch this again in my life. I will never come back to it.
I'll never see it again.
I'll never really think about this again, to be honest. It's not even so bad that it's like, it's found a way into some recess of my brain that will never leave. It's just kind of gonna come and go because it's that meaningless, I guess. So,
it reminds me a bit of Joker in a way, in that kind of sense, like where the filmmakers think the film's more shocking than it is. And it's like, I argue Joker's a way better film than this. The lesson at the end's important, and like I can't really tell why because it's such a fucking spoiler, but like the theme it touches at the very end, I'm like, oh, that's really interesting. In fact, that would have made an amazing movie if you take out the last like 15 minutes, stretch out to a whole fucking film where he deals with the consequence of that, make that the opening scene. That's interesting.
Yeah.
What the film does instead, I feel like it just couldn't choose. Pick a comedy or pick a drama.
Totally.
It's like, normally I fucking hate comedy dramas because I always like dully about as to which one they want to be in. The tone's always inconsistent. And this movie is fucking evidence of it.
Yeah. I don't even know what genre this is, Nathan. I don't even know what it's like. Date porn. It's like date horror porn or something. I don't know.
It really is.
It's not good. Yeah.
It's a weird argument. So yeah, no, I wouldn't recommend this to mates. Like, if you want to watch a movie like this, go back to Graduate. Like, if you want to see like interesting sexual dynamic.
Yeah, Graduate, again, like any of Scorsese that's dealing with complex characters that aren't necessarily great people. I think those are all interesting. Like Wolf of Wall Street does this really well, of someone that is just deplorable.
Exactly, yeah. I love the Woody Allen film Husbands and Wives. That's a great one about adultery if you want to get into that. We've dealt with, some would say too many films that have dealt with adultery on this show. We've done a fuck ton of them. So like...
it seemed to be a popular theme back in the day.
But mind you, it's maybe because like so many of our episodes are Bond. Maybe that's why adultery just keeps coming up. But like...
Hey, you're not wrong.
But even James Bond deals with that subject matter better than this. That's saying something.
Yeah, it really does. Yeah.
Because at least the movie's sad when like the women don't work out. This one, they just vanish. We just never hear from them again. They're just in and out. It's just...
There's not a lot more to say without spoiling it. So shall we jump into some spoilers?
Before we finish rating it, I just want to say this to Michael Caine. You failed me. I trusted you, and you failed me.
I trusted you, and I failed you.
Yeah, you did, Michael Caine. You fucking failed both of us today, mate.
Could we potentially get a soundbite, at some point of that clip from The Dark Knight Rises of him talking to Michael talking to like a poster of Alfie, like, I trusted you.
I'll put like a poster of Alfie on Michael Caine's face, and I'll put like a photo of like a theater audience over like Bruce Wayne's face,
or like our logo, like the two of us, like, oh.
Just like coming out from either end of like Christian Bale's head, just.
Yeah, why not? Let's spoil the shit out of this.
Yeah, man, I'm ready for this. You spoiled it.
What?
The movie.
Oh.
I want to start this off on a positive note, Brenton, because I feel like I'm going to shit on this movie a lot in the next coming minutes.
Okay, cool, because I was about to shit on it.
Yeah, I know. I thought, let's compliment sandwich this bitch, all right? So, something I really like.
Okay.
You know who I really like? And you know who's like probably the only maybe really, really good character in this movie? I like the bus driver, mate. I like bloody Humphrey. You know the bloke who works on the bus?
Humphrey, yeah. Oh yeah, what a gem of a man.
What a good guy. What a bloody solid bloke. Like,
yeah.
So, because like in this movie, Michael Caine, he knocks up like one of the first girls and she decides to have the baby, which is the most obvious thing as well. Like Michael Caine kind of just lets it happen. And
yeah,
the kid's there. And then this chick is kind of having chats with this bloke who works on the bus, who reminds me so much of Stan Shungpike.
Yeah.
Did you get that vibe when he got on the bus? He's like,
Oh, I totally got that vibe. I get exactly what you mean, yeah.
did you want him to stick his head out and just be like, what you looking at?
Or he's got a friend, he's like, oh, this guy always rides with me, and it's like, take it away, Arnie. Yeah, take it away, man.
Well, come on then. Let's not wait for the grass to grow. As she's stepping on the bus.
Who is that? Who is that? That is serious black, that is.
She's just sitting there on the bus. It's like,
Oh wait, no. That is Alfie. That is, and it goes to like a photo of his newspaper, and it's like bloody Alfie, like getting
Wanted.
his like bloody convict photo.
Yeah. And she was like,
Yeah.
him I've heard of. Like,
Oh,
he's great.
too good.
And he has the same little ticket machine as Stan Shungpike as well. I'm like, I'm so glad these things actually existed. Like, they're so fucking stupid.
Yeah.
But anyway, this chick like befriends him, right? And then like she just has him out for lunch one day, and she's like, oh, how would you feel if like we got married and you maybe had a kid that's like from another man? And he's like, oh yeah, I treat him pretty well. Like, what a good bloke. Like, what a solid guy. Like, he just cares about her.
And the thing is as well, we get to see more of Humphrey later in the film.
Yeah.
And you see like how well he's accepted Alfie's son into like his own family, and that they're getting I think it's their daughter baptized. And he just seems like, and the way he's like handling, like this, like his son,
Yeah.
who's not his biological son, but his son, with like all this love and adoration, and he's like picking him up and he's hurling him around and he's like having a good old time, and he's just being a really good dad,
Yeah.
It was a great moment. You were just like, oh, that's nice. And then it was juxtaposed by Alfie, which the
Yeah.
film again tried to beat over our head. Like, yeah, Alfie, this is what you're missing out on, before he went home and had the abortion and saw the fetus or
Yeah,
whatever. Like,
which is fucked up. The fact that like he decided just to like not be by her side, but just to go for a stroll around town while she was getting an abortion. And like,
oh my gosh.
and he happens to stumble on his like son's baptism. I'm like, you're an actual asshole, mate. Like, you are a real sack of shit. Like,
I was so done by that point, but it was just like, well,
that's like some of the worst things I've seen in cinema. Like, he does some despicable shit throughout the movie, like really bad stuff. He essentially abducts women as well, by the way. Like, as
yeah.
like you could easily take him to court and make a case for an abduction. So he does it repeatedly throughout the whole bloody movie.
He also has like basically a servant at a point in the movie as well. Like, he does some fucked up shit.
It's almost like trafficking, man. Like, it's
Yeah.
there's some
It's messed up.
backwards shit, mate. And like these poor women who were and he preys on the vulnerable and that kind of stuff. And like, but the sad thing is that he does all these things where he hits on all these women, right? And he's abducting women. But then he'll turn to the camera and make a joke about it, going, "Oh, it's pretty easy picking up a bird." And then nothing happens. He just gets away with it, and he ends up abducting this girl. And I'm like, mate, this is not time to crack a joke. It's time to call bloody 000. Like, come on.
Nathan, now I had to change the topic. I had a few I had two things I really want to talk about in spoilers, and I wanted to just ask you a question. What the heck's going on with the dogs? What the fuck's going on with the doggies? What's
I forgot this happened in the movie because for some reason the movie
What's going
opens
on?
and closes with like a stray dog that's like running around London, and I think the dog's meant to be a metaphor for him because like he befriends it at the end. Maybe he makes peace that he's a stray dog or something like that. Like, it's metaphorical, right?
I still don't know, man.
Was it meant to allude to Lady and the Tramp? Were you waiting for the dog to start and speak with the voice of Justin Trudeau and be like, "Watch me on Disney Plus"?
Maybe this film is the prequel to Lady and the Tramp.
Oh, jeez. Just Michael Caine. He's the one who ends up being a pizza chef, and he's the one that makes the pasta for them. He's like, "Here you go, dogs.
Yeah.
Here's a bloody meatball on the house." I would love to see Michael Caine do that role.
Oh, too good.
But it is
indeed.
weird. I don't know what is going on with those dogs. Did you get anything out of it?
I think for you, I think you probably hit the theme on the head, but then I'm going, really? They wasted all that screen time just for that? To be like, oh, he's a stray dog as well, don't you see? Aren't we smart? It's just like no good.
It's no good. It's a no good.
It's a no good.
Are there scenes you liked in this movie, mate? Are there scenes that you liked? You watched and you're like, this is a great scene.
Okay, this goes into my second point.
Oh,
So
here
the
we
second
go.
point
What
I
a
wanted to
segue.
make was the potential for a good movie. And I want to talk about the doctor's scene.
Okay.
Because this is what I thought was going to happen.
He gets all this cancer and they said there's a special program because you're dying of all this cancer.
Yeah.
We'll put you under. You talk to the camera. I think we know what character this is.
Because it's an interesting scene in the sense of like, the screenplay was constantly going from narration into the scene. And
Yeah,
sometimes
yeah.
the scene would break through the narration. It was like, oh shit, something's going down. He must be suffering a life-threatening disease. It's in his lungs. I was like, this fucker's got tuberculosis for sure.
Yeah. Well, he does.
Yeah, but I was like, could it be the thing that that's like, it regresses so much because of his behavior or whatever, that like he starts to die of this shit. Like, you know, he can't do it. Like, and I was like, is it going to get really bad? And he has to like deal with his own mortality or whatever and have to like become a better man, or like, you know, face the choices he's made in life and be like, I'm going to die, you know, I could potentially die soon, and what's going to happen to me? None of that shit happens though.
None of it. And the film forgets it like after this scene, essentially.
It's ridiculous. It's so ridiculous.
The only reason the film brings this up is that he can go to rehab so that he can pick up like another patient's wife.
Which is just...
And subsequently knock her up. It's like...
gosh.
It's just
horrendous. Look, at the same time, I thought she was an interesting character a little bit, and then I was like, you know what? Actually, she's not, because the film's actually not giving her due to really go into the depths of what she's experiencing. It's more concerned with following Alfie, or making the point that Alfie doesn't give a shit that she's getting an abortion and just like leaves and goes for a walk. That's what the film's more interested in, being like, oh, what a bad man Alfie is, and it's like, yeah, but what about this person that's on his couch? What's going on?
Like, there's just so much wrong with that abortion scene, and it's funny because like the cracking joke's the whole bloody movie, and then like the guy who actually does the abortion comes in, and he's like, the guy's like, this is illegal. Like, you do know what's happening right now. It's like, are you aware of the consequences?
I was gonna ask you about him because like he was just such a weird character.
Wasn't he? Such a weird performance as well. It's like, you know, it's like he stepped out of a film noir. He's like, what's going on here, Sammy Jim?
Yeah.
It's like...
He looked like he was from like Guillermo del Toro's The Shape of Water. Like he looked like he was in that world of being like, well, you do realize that abortions are illegal and that, you know, if you're a fish, you should probably have sex with it. And I was like, wow, okay, cool. Like, it was just such a weird like caricature of like a person, and I was like, this belongs in like some monster movie, not in Alfie, you know?
Yeah.
When he's here to perform an abortion, it was so bizarre.
I didn't even know why he was there in the first place. It took me a second to realize that he was the abortion doctor. I'm like, who is this man in their house? Like, he was so out of place, Brenton. But I'm glad that you brought up interesting characters, because you said there were really no interesting characters in this movie. I disagree. I think there is one interesting character that I really liked, and there's one scene in this movie I really liked.
What was it, and who was it?
And it was the rich old lady.
Oh, really? I don't know. Like, I thought the introduction scene of him taking photos of it was, you know, a bit like, you're
that
like,
was good.
Cool.
That's the movie
like,
I wanted to see.
He's
like, watch him just like sneakily pick up women.
But then the whole point of that was that so he could rock up the end and be like, oh, she's got a younger man.
Which you could kind of see coming as well. Like, but like at the end of the day, I like that we saw that, and I like that he learned that lesson. And also, like, it's cool the way he picked her up. Like, I feel like that's what the movie was trying to be, you know?
Yeah, totally. Like I do agree. I do enjoy. Yeah, I would say that I do kind of enjoy that scene where he's taking the photos.
Yeah, and the chauffeur's having none of it. He's like, fuck off.
Yeah, he blocks off that other gentleman and like is like, give me your number, give me your address, and she's like, ooh, I will. And then he's like, I actually don't have any change. He's like, keep the change, and off he goes.
Yeah.
If you hadn't watched the movie, actually, that was a terrible description of that scene. So I hope you enjoyed it here on Classic Movie Banter. Thank you very much.
Brenton is a professional actor.
But oh, Michael Cocaine.
Oh.
Anyway, sorry, keep going.
It's just ridiculous. It really is. Like, I like that part of it. I like that he goes back to a pub. And it reminds actually a little bit of American in Paris. Like, you can see Gene Kelly doing the same bloody thing.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh, can't you?
Yeah.
But like, I don't know. I like that that's what I thought finally he was going to learn a lesson and maybe the plot would have kicked in, but it doesn't. Like, I like as well that she fucks it up. I like that, like, he's always out the door and then, like, she talks to him and she's like, we'll have sex again.
The biggest thing I think we're taking away from this is that there are some scenes that, like, have so much potential to lead into something else that the film could have really developed, and it just doesn't. And they're the scenes that we're the most interested in, because at the same time, there's just so many rando scenes that you're like, oh gosh. Like, the scene where, like, I think it's, what's the name of the redhead woman?
Oh, Lily.
Lily. The young
I think is her name.
that...
Oh, no, Annie. Annie's her name.
Annie, that's it.
Yeah.
Like the scene where she's like, where he comes home and she's like, I used the steak and I baked it into a pie, and he's like, fuck your pie, and then she runs away, and then he gets the custard out of the oven, and he's like, oh, I really like this custard. Wait, Annie, come back, and she just bolts to the bus and gets on it. And he's like, Annie. And then we move on to the next scene. He acts like he's completely normal again. Like, it never amounted to anything.
No.
Oh, but it did amount to her relationship. Amount to the most ridiculous bar brawl I've ever seen in my life.
What the fuck? Like,
that was just absolutely off the wall.
and like, for some reason, Michael Caine, I reckon he's just got that guy as a backup for if like shit ever does hit the fan. Because like, that guy's fucking huge. Like, they must have just hired the biggest guy they could find in London. And like, for some reason, Michael Caine's like, oi, get him.
He comes from nowhere, dude. And it's so funny when like the guy that's like from the truck driver that is like chasing Annie is like, oi, what'd you do with this girl? Like, you know, like, what have you done to her? And then Alfie's like, oh, he gets punched in the face, he runs away anyway. So this big guy gets involved and he stands up, and when he picks that guy up by the scruff of the neck, the facial expression that guy has is absolutely ridiculous.
And when he punches him across the room,
It was nearly the still of the movie for me. That guy just did.
No, the moment in that bar fight that's almost stole the movie for me was when one of the guys gets thrown across the room and his head goes through like a wooden plank or whatever, and there's like a little plaque around him, and he pulls like the dumbest fucking face. Like, I don't know if you remember it, but it was pretty good.
I agree. I think it was pretty good, but I think like there's so many things in that bar scene that like you could just like point out that were just like absolutely ridiculous and so funny, just so out of place in this movie. Like the continual chairs on the back of that guy was just like absolutely like insane.
And you know what, Brenton? This movie has unearthed another thing I dislike, another cliche that I want to add to our list of Nathan's cliches that he's now banning from movies.
What is that?
There's a scene where Michael Caine like pulls into like the bloody petrol station to pick up that truck driver's girl. And the truck driver, when he first walks in, like this one guy's like, "Oh, hey, mate." And like one of his mates like recognizes him and he's like, "Oh, hey, dude." And he like walks down to sit at the table. And then Michael Caine walks in and fucking everyone knows Michael Caine. And they're like, "Hey, Alfie. Yeah, Alfie, buddy." And it's like everyone's like, "Ah, my guy." It's like, this never happens. This never happens in real life, man.
No. I mean, I can tell you from experience, like I walk into rooms and no one knows who I am. And I've usually met them 3 or 4 times before, so, you know.
I've come home from overseas trips and I've had less of a reception than that.
Maybe this is just a reflection on
Actually, yeah.
Maybe this is just a reflection on our sad lives rather than like reality. Yeah.
We're just like really bitter. We're just like, oh, I wish I got the reception to Alfie.
Do you have anything else to spoil? I don't have much else here. Yeah,
I'm ready for special segments.
Special segment.
Ooh, so special. What do you want to start off with, Brenton?
We've got a few new segments today, so I just want to start with the classic and just go MCU. Would Alfie fit in the MCU?
I like this a lot because obviously Michael Caine is very famous for playing Alfred, a DC character.
Totally.
I like the idea that Alfie is in the MCU and like he uses his powers for good. You know what I mean? Like,
okay.
So I'm trying to think of like female villains we've had in the MCU. You know what I mean?
What exactly are his powers? Sorry, can we just
pretty much seducing any woman of his choice? Like, you know, like he's you know, the power of seduction, Brenton. And you know what? It might not even have to be women. You know what? I bet Alfie could use it on men as well. I bet he could swing both ways. Yeah,
I agree. Or alien species, anything. Like I could see him. Chatting up Thanos, you know what I mean? Like, I think that could happen.
I like to think of him like somehow stumbling into like Asgard and trying to hit on Kate Blanchett.
Okay, sure.
Like
sure,
Thor's had his eye stabbed out. Like he's trying to work out, fuck, what do I do? And he's in Thor Ragnarok. You know, the Hulk's incapacitated, and then lo and behold, like stumbles out of a portal like Michael Caine. Like he's a little bit drunk.
Yeah, no. No, but he's got his camera and he's like taking photos. He's like, "Oh, can you pose by the bridge? Like, I'll take a photo of you."
And Kate Blanchett's having none of it. She's just standing there. She just whips out one of her knives. And she's like, "Who are you?" And then bloody Carl Urban's like standing next to her, just being like, "Oh, that's from Midgard, that is. That's a bachelor."
Oh, too bloody good. I tell you what, in the MCU, they'd have to have like a little scene though, as like a little MCU joke of like crossing over. He sees the Falcon like fly over at a point in the final battle in Endgame, and he's like, "Oh, it's a bird!" Like just like that would make my day.
I could bloody pick up that bird. Anthony Mackie's having none of it. He's just like, who was this guy? Like,
wait, when you've got yourself a bird, just as still bloody Falcon.
Yeah. He's trying to chat him up. Like,
too good.
Because the only date I can think of that happens in the MCU off the top of my head is that at the start of Thor: The Dark World, there's a scene when Natalie Portman goes on a date with bloody guy from Bridesmaids, Chris O'Dowd. Like she goes on a date with him. I don't know if you remember that scene. Like they're in like one of the London high sky.
I've never seen Thor: The Dark World, so the fact that Chris O'Dowd's in Thor is news to me. So there you go.
Oh really, dude? Look up this scene. It's fucking hilarious.
Yeah,
it's so
totally.
out of place. Like it's so stupid.
I can't wait.
It's so weird. For some reason, like Thor's been traveling across the universe, so like Natalie Portman's like trying to see other guys, and so she goes on this like really awkward date with like Chris O'Dowd, and it's great. And then Kat Dennings rocks up and she's like, "Oh, where's bloody Thor?" And then Chris O'Dowd's like, "What the fuck? You're sleeping with Thor?" And Natalie Portman's like, "Haha, maybe." But like anyway, imagine like that date's happening. And then like Michael Caine just stumbles in. He's like, and he like taps Chris O'Dowd on the shoulder. He's like, "Don't worry, let me step in there, love." And he's like, "How are you going, Natalie Portman?" It could work.
No, he'd be like, "How you going, girl?" Like he calls women, like he's like, "How you going, girl?" Like it's oh god, what a piece of work. Should Alfie be a musical?
See, I was watching this movie, and the whole time I was watching, I'm thinking, you know what? Subject matter-wise, this could fit into a musical. I could see song and dance spots.
I could see it as well.
I mean, it's already been a novel to play, so it's ripe for adaptation.
I think as well, the only issue with it is that there would have to be some variety in the music because there's no variety in the plot.
No.
So we'd have to get a few musical genres in play.
Would it be a jazz musical? Would you keep the sound of the film?
I think you keep some of that, but I think you'd really want to also implement a lot of different music styles from the 60s maybe. Like, I think that'd be really fun.
Make it like a throwback piece. Like, yeah. I could see
Yeah.
Would you bring back Michael Caine? Can he sing? I don't think I've ever heard him sing.
Why not? Why not? Just see if he's available. Call him up. Hey, Michael, you want to head to Broadway?
Yes, I bloody do. That's his one-line answer. What does he say? What does he say to Leo DiCaprio in Inception? He's like, "Come back to reality." He's just like,
mate. Michael Caine has a few bangers of lines in movies. Like there are so many Michael Caine lines that you could just call upon at any time.
He's got so many in the Batman movies that are great. Do you have like a favorite in the Batman movies that he does?
Absolutely.
What is it?
Never.
I really like it. I like it when he goes like, "Some men like to watch the world burn." You know, he's like telling that story.
Yeah, absolutely.
Actually, you know what my favorite Michael Caine moment is in a movie? It's when he's
What?
It's in The Dark Knight when he's on like the yacht full of like Russian ballet dancers. Like Batman has to go on his little mission, and Michael Caine's just whipping out the sunscreen. He's like, "They can go bloody get their own sunscreen." Like.
Yeah, he's like they could apply their bloody own suntan lotion. Like,
and he's in a little
Bruce,
polo,
jumps off the boat.
and a little hat. Like,
Too good.
Happens on vacation. Brenton, I want to introduce a new special segment. Would this movie work set in the present day?
Well, the first thing we have to reason with in this question is the fact that, the movie works in the first place, which it doesn't.
Yeah. But like, could this premise hold up in the modern day? Like, logistically, like, if these girls like added Michael Caine, would they like have him on? I know we keep saying Michael Caine, we're aware of this, listeners, but we like making jokes. Like, if this was set in 2021, like, surely they'd just add him on like Insta or something like that, or like they'd see that he has a very low friend count, and maybe there's a reason why for that.
Could you imagine Michael Caine's like Bumble profile? Like his Tinder profile.
Like, maybe that's how you set this movie in the modern day. Like, because I don't think you could just carry it across.
Alfie, who's this guy? Yeah, he's like his photos just like him like hanging out like, hey, I'm Alfie.
Can we make Michael Caine's Bumble profile like his Tinder profile? Like,
why not?
I would.
Why not? I think it'd be a fun time.
I'll catfish people as Michael Caine.
Absolutely.
When do you want to break up? Never. But I can see, but that's the thing, they made it back in 2004, right? They remade this with Jude Law, and which is also weird because they're both, Michael Caine and Jude Law are also in Sleuth, which is also a remake of his old movie. So they've done a bunch of projects together. But I don't know, I feel like 2004 wouldn't have been the time to remake this. I can see it being done now. I can see you doing something with dating apps and be like, you can say something about the predatory nature of maybe online dating or something like that, or catfish culture. Like, you could do something intelligent with the subject matter if you said it today.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it'd be interesting. So, film producers, if you're feeling it, maybe give us a remake of Alfie, another one. Not that I think we really need it.
No, we really don't.
Who knows?
Another new special segment I want to bring up, Brenton, because I'm all about the new. This has great potential for future episodes. Do we want to be the main character?
I have no intention of being this main character in this film.
No.
That, you would... Oh.
But that's the thing, because I feel like in the 60s people wanted this. Like, I remember hearing that people in the 60s wanted to be Alfie.
He drives a Rolls Royce. That's pretty cool, but no.
Yeah, I like his car. I love it when he says, like, if you pull up in a Royce, they bloody love you. It's like, yeah, they would, Michael Caine. By the way, what's his job? What's his actual profession?
I don't know. I think he's like a chauffeur or something.
Yeah. He's getting oil off a car at one point at the start of the movie. I'm like, does he work in a factory? Like, it's hard to tell.
It was just very bizarre.
Who knows,
He's
man?
like, if you have a car like mine, it is easier to get yourself a bird. And you're like, thanks, Michael.
Yeah, thanks for the
buddy.
hot
Thanks,
tip,
Alfie.
mate. I'll just buy a Royals there.
I'll
go straight to the dealer.
Thanks for the input.
Yeah.
Thanks for the input. I'll head to the dealership now.
Of course,
exactly.
how could I miss it? Women are attracted to money, who would have thought? But like, I don't know, I feel like even if being Alfie was just having the charisma of Alfie and that's it, even then I still wouldn't want to be him because he just comes across as such an asshole. Like, no wonder he has no friends and he only ever talks to women. It's like you wouldn't have mates if you acted like Alfie. It's like,
oh, totally.
I met some blokes in my life who are kind of like Alfie. I remember when I was in college, I met a couple boys from like King's College, which is like the all boys one next to us. I met a couple of guys who were just like such assholes. They were such like Alfie.
Yeah.
And they'd always be out by themselves, and because we'd all go to the same clubs. I remember seeing them at like the exact same bars, just chatting to a new girl each time. And I'm like,
yeah,
mate, what are you bloody doing? It's like, what do you do on your Sundays? Like,
yeah,
no role models at all. You want a bloody role model? Look at Babe. Babe's a good role model. An outstanding citizen in his community.
Babe's always a great role model. Nathan, now we're going to get onto one of our favorite segments in the show, and that is what stills this movie.
Ooh, It's blinding.
For our listeners that have no idea what the heck I'm talking about, What Stills This Movie is a segment on the show where either Nathan or myself, or both of us together, we pick a single frame from the film we are reviewing on the basis of it being funny, interesting, or just a beautiful piece of cinematography. Something we can chat about.
Yeah.
You can find this still on the links below on our Instagram page. Nathan, what the heck are we looking at right now?
It's funny because you and I were chatting about the stills before the episode and we both struggled. It's like, just to show how shit this movie is. You know it's a bad movie when we struggled to pick a still. Like, there wasn't anything that really interesting cinematography-wise, or even that funny frame-wise.
Yeah, totally.
But the one thing that did stand out after deliberation was that when he's in rehab, there's a moment where, like, he's like a nurse comes into, I don't know what she's doing, to give him an injection or something, and she pulls a curtain between like this couple that surrounds with Michael Caine and him. She's standing behind the curtain and the couple's trying to have a normal conversation about like some, I don't know, like what the neighbors are up to or something like that.
Well, I believe as well, she offers him a banana. Is like, oh, would you like a banana, love?
Oh, yeah,
and he's
that's
like,
right.
Oh, yes, please, thank you. And then he like tries to eat this banana and is viewing this still.
It's like the most sexless relationship, and it's juxtaposed to what Michael Caine's doing behind the curtain. And this like nurse is making out with him, and the camera keeps on cutting back to like the feet, and like we just slowly see the feet come out of the frame.
But for me, that's also what funny is funny about this still. So if you look at the still, like her first foot goes up originally in the film, like onto the bed.
Yeah.
And then you're like, all right. And then suddenly her second foot starts to go up as well. But now both of her shoes were clearly black, like under, when they were standing there. And now there's like a red shoe on the floor. It's so bizarre.
Is Dorothy behind that
Where
curtain?
did it come from?
Does she suddenly appear? Like, she, and the Wizard of Oz, she bloody clicks her heels and she rocks up in like Alfie's rehab. Like, she's like, this isn't Kansas.
There's no place like home. There's no place like home. There's no place like home. Could you imagine just like Judy screaming, seeing the side of the nurse and Alfie just like going at it?
So much danger. Quick, Toto. Oh, that'd be great. But it's it's so weird.
Lions and tigers and Alfie, oh my.
This is just, this still is such an example of just the film's stupidity. You know what I mean? It's like, it has such heavy subject matter, and by the way, this sequence goes for far too long. And we're just watching this it's just ridiculous, Brenton.
Absolutely ridiculous. But hey. Should we look at this film's poster?
Nah, fuck it. Brenton.
Yes?
Let's look at this film's poster.
But is it art? Well, you can find this poster for Alfie on our socials if you look in the links below as well. So get on that so you can see what we're talking about. Nathan,
get on it!
This poster is a reflection of the films of its time.
Of what a mess it is.
Look at this poster.
It's like the word Alfie in like big red font, and like it's like on the bottom half of the poster. The top half is just all these like reviews, just like plopped on it. And you know what? I always find it desperate when a poster has to throw reviews on it. I'm like, oh, Christ, you have to really try and sell this poster then. I mean, it's just shit marketing. But obviously the highlight of this poster, Brenton, is that for the eye, they've got some cutout head of Michael Caine. And how would you describe that expression, Brenton, that he's pulling?
Well, okay, firstly, he's the dot on the eye. So his head is the dot on the eye.
Brenton, can we just acknowledge that's an amazing compliment? Brenton, you are the dot on the eye.
It is a nice compliment. You are Michael Caine is the dot on the eye.
He's the dot of our eyes.
Oh, he's certainly not.
Ooh.
Anyway, so he's the dot of the eye, and I reckon his facial expression is what he's like, the facial expression he makes when he's about to say bird.
Christ, that's a fun drinking game you can do with this movie. Every time he bloody says the word bird, I tell you what.
What's a better poster, though?
A better poster, Christ. You can see all the women like just look frightened as they're in like the big font. What's a better poster? Honestly, like, it's funny because I'm trying to think of how to market this movie, right? Because this film's all over the place.
Yeah.
So what I would do, you know what? I'd almost make it like a John Wick poster where like it's like, you know how it's like John Wick in the center and all these guns are like around and pointing at him.
Yeah.
I'd like to think it's like Alfie in the middle, just looking a little bit like he's like raising an eyebrow, like looking at the camera, and then like all of like the women from the film are like surrounding him, and they've all got like, I don't know, like guns pointed at him, or they've all got like a weapon of some sort, you know?
I actually really like the idea of him in the center and the women like surrounding him in a circular fashion. I think that's quite good. I think that'd be awesome. I think that's a really good idea, Nathan.
I think so. And maybe some of them look happy, some look upset, some look them angry, so we can tell from their expressions it's going to be a bit of a mixed bag.
Yeah, that's perfect. Well, Nathan, thank you for solving that. The person that did make this poster should be fired because, oh boy, it's not going on my wall. Let me tell you that much.
Oh, so also fun facts about the poster. See how on the bottom left, it says recommended for mature audiences.
There you go.
Would you take your child to see this movie for PG?
Mate, I wouldn't even know where to start with the parental guidance, so I can't answer that.
No, if it ends with a dead fetus, it's like, why would you walk in that kitchen? Jesus. Title talk.
Ooh, was the title.
Was there Alfie in Alfie?
I mean, Alfie was in Alfie. Side note, I don't like the name Alfie. Just throwing it out there. Sorry, all the Alfie listeners that are there, but it's just like,
Sorry, all the Alfred, Alfie. Oh my gosh.
I know,
Michael Caine played Alfred in Alfie.
oh yeah, there you go. Whoa, I never even made that connection before.
So maybe Alfie is like the younger Alfred Pennyworth.
Oh my god. This is the Alfred Pennyworth prequel series we do need, even though there is already one out there. Maybe that's the history that he was
Yeah, why
alluding
not?
to. Like, he decides to become a butler after all this. You know what? Continuity-wise, it could link up. Also, timeline-wise, it could link up, because he probably would have been this age back in the 60s, so versus the 2000s, like...
Absolutely.
So he decides to move to Gotham.
And be a butler.
Could it even line up with, like, the Joker timeline, where it's, like, in the 80s, like, he starts raising a young Bruce Wayne, and, like...
It really would. It really would, yeah.
Michael Caine drags, like, the boy back from, like, the bars as he's chatting to, like, Joaquin Phoenix. Like, it's like, that's enough of that. That's not a bird.
What are you doing, bird?
Joaquin Phoenix scurries off. It's like, ooh.
There was a bird at the gates. I mean, a person at the gates.
Like, I like the name Alfred. I just think Alfie's just like, I don't know. I guess why they chose it.
Yeah.
It's a bit like Cockney, and it's a little like, oh yeah, it's a Cockney kind of sound.
Oh, yeah, I get where you're coming from, though. Would you have called it anything different, though?
How to not treat women? I don't know.
Yeah, that's a pretty good one.
Sexism, the movie. I don't know. Michael Caine, what a player.
Michael Caine, what a player.
Michael Caine, comma, what a player, exclamation mark. Like, I reckon that should have been the title.
Done deal.
or even My Cocaine. I reckon that would have sold tickets.
My cocaine, sure. My corona, my cocaine. Nice. Now, Nathan, should we get into, should we pass the power to the people?
Yeah, let's pass it.
Pass it here.
What?
The power to the people.
So, if you go to the tomato meter, you will see that Alfie, for some reason, has a 96% approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes.
Critics laughed. This is what the grand jury at Cannes. Like, this was well received, mate.
Totally. But it's also got an audience score of 76, which is very respectable. So, people like this movie, Nathan. We're in the minority.
Yeah, man. It's like, I don't know. And this is coming right after Cleopatra. You think we would have been loving this, but like,
Totally.
we're just hanging in the slums the past couple of weeks. But here's the reason one of them loved it. Christopher Lloyd. He's from the film Yap, and he gave it a 4.5 out of 5. What he wrote was, though it's very much a product of its time, Alfie has aged well because it's funny, sad, and insightful look at an eternal struggle. Is this an eternal struggle, Brenton?
What is the eternal struggle? What?
'Cause I don't
like,
think it's
treating
love.
people with respect and like humanity? Like what?
Maybe not being an asshole to women? Like,
No.
I get it. I can see why film critics may have liked it, but it's just... It's not even that wanky in its appeal towards the subject matter, you know?
It's also not funny, so that's something to be said as
It's
well.
a product
so,
of its time.
no.
Even then, it's not
Disagree.
even a product of its time, because I didn't find its 60s elements dated. Like, you could have easily had the exact same movie happen in the
No.
2020s, and like it would have still felt not that different.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of reviews that are negative and more in line with ours, Isabel Quigley from The Spectator had this to say. In Lewis Gilbert's film, the stop-go policy of laugh, cry, with squealer titter variations now and then, just doesn't work because the moods overlap.
She's got a point. It's like, yeah, the laugh cry thing, I just can't, man.
Yeah.
Like some films do it well.
It's
Like
just, yeah.
Parasite does it bloody well. Like Parasite knows how to do it. But just here, it's like,
I just feel like it never found its voice, it never found its tone, it never was able to flip the tone. It was just kind of this monotonous grind to watch this movie, so...
Dan LaBea from Nitro Online liked it. Brenton gave it 4 out of 5. Said Caine's terrific performance makes a viewer almost forget that the film is actually a condemnation of its character's swinging lifestyle. And you know what? I agree with that so much, and that raises such a good point. I really dislike the reputation this movie has. Because I seriously thought the whole time we're just going to like watch Michael Caine in this comedy, just like pick up all these women and have a silly time. But like the movie is just so not that. Like it's sad and sardonic. Like people need to know that going in.
Yeah, interesting how it's kind of got this it's perceived a certain way that we just didn't see it that way at all.
Yeah.
So Logan M gave it 3.5 stars and said, tamer and a lot more dated today than when it first came out, but Alfie holds up thanks to its sly humor and its titular character's believable attitude towards casual sexuality.
Yeah, I got nothing really to add to that. Like,
yeah, I don't really have much to add to that either. I think like a lot more dated today than when it first came out. Yeah, maybe in terms of like filmmaking styles and techniques.
but believable attitude?
Yeah, that's what I mean. It holds up because of sly humor and believable attitude. I didn't buy it for a second, and I didn't think it was funny, like any of the humor. So,
But
more than I think
even
it was
then,
sly.
I
I
feel
just
like
thought it was very blatant.
I feel like it's not even believable because, like, no one's... I'm sure people are that immoral out there in the world, but it's like, at some point, Michael Caine must have tweaked because he loves talking about his own life so much. He's so fucking vain. So, like, you think a man that vain would have been like, oh, wait, maybe I'm actually being terrible to some of these women. It's like, you know what else really
Totally,
sucks about
yeah.
this movie? We never find out why he is the way that he is. we never learn his backstory. Like, we never kind of
No.
get how Alfie became to us. Like, did he have did he fall out of love? Did he have heartbreak? Like, we never get that.
Yeah.
And maybe that's an ingredient that could have helped, but like, nah. Connor G gave it 2 stars, said, I didn't think this was going to build to anything at all. And it would be really humdrum for the entirety of it, but the last 20 minutes helped salvage it a tiny bit. And like, that bloody nails it on the head.
So this is the point you were saying before, Nathan. You were saying that the ending of it, there was something in it. There was something in it that could potentially salvage it. You settled on the fact that it probably didn't, but
that's the thing. If you had that open the movie
least.
about him having to get an abortion and that was the wake-up call and he had to like they, I don't know, like they make it that thing, that would have been interesting. But they don't.
Yeah, I think it could have come way earlier. Whether it was at the start is another thing, but it needed to be maybe at the end of the second act at the earliest. You know what I mean? Not well into the third.
Exactly.
So,
yeah.
Raiden Keefe on YouTube wrote this. He said, "Why was he, presumably referring to Michael Caine, why was he never Bond?
I mean, do you want to see Michael Caine as Bond? Also, he turned it down from memory.
There is still plenty of time, Nathan.
There's still time to die, as we know.
Could you ever see an elderly Bond happening?
I don't know, because the whole point of Bond is that there's such a sex appeal to it as well. Like, I don't know. Like, I've yet to see a Hollywood film that really makes real old age sexy in that kind of way. Like, not that it can't. And like one of my favorite movies is Amour, which deals with like old people in love. It's a French film. Fucking excellent. Watch that. Watch Amour from 2012 over this, listeners, if you want to watch a movie this week.
Not Alfie.
Don't watch Alfie. Watch a really beautiful love story. Watch Amour. That's fucking excellent. Christ, I could talk about Amour for ages. But like, I think it could do an aged up Bond, but I don't think it's on brand. Like, I can't see the general and public embracing it on a large scale. Even with Michael Caine, it's like, because look at like Liam Neeson in those action movies. It's just like, and he's like, and that's like the classic like old guy staple kind of like going back into the ring. Like, I don't know. Do we need an older white man to be Bond? It's like, it just doesn't feel like the direction that franchise needs to head in.
No, it doesn't. But it's a funny thought.
I do like it. It's just like, some men wants to watch the world burn, and he just like shoots the Bond villain. It's just like,
I'm James Bond.
Yeah, it'd be good, but like, I don't know. I'm not a big fan of it, to be honest. I think I'm happy with the Bonds that we've had so far. What's this? Sea Serpent 91 wrote, Alfred Pennyworth's sordid past.
Oh, they're onto it. This is what I was kind of saying before. Oh, just imagine this. This is the prequel to the Batman trilogy, as well as Joker, as well as all the Batman lore. It all starts. Alfred Pennyworth's backstory is in Alfie, so that's probably the only reason you should watch it.
Maybe there could be a scene where in The Dark Knight where like the Joker, you remember like the Joker's like in that party and he like grabs Alfred at one point and he's like asking where like Batman is. Like maybe like the Joker, like Heath Ledger like grabs Alfred and then Alfred like starts to like charm the Joker like as a distraction. It's like, oh, I can finally use my skills.
Can finally use my skills again. Yeah, for sure. Nathan, I think that's all we have time for today. I think that was Alfie.
That was him, and he's a bloody menace, mate. Lock him up. Put Alfie in jail, mate.
Lock him up. Oh. Put him away. That
would be that'd be a great special segment we should do in the future. Should these characters go to prison? Like,
sure. That's actually a really good one. Great idea. Let's keep that in it.
Down.
I think that could really work.
Yeah, because boy, does he deserve to go to prison. Like if you took him to court, you would easily fucking win. Like, jeez. Like,
absolutely.
That'd be great. Tom Cruise rocks up. He's like, I demand the truth. I'm a player, I am.
Guys, thank you so much for tuning into the show, to listening.
Well, thanks for opening up your podcast app. I mean, if you're actually literally tuning into the show, please write in and let us know what device you're using for that.
Yeah, because it's quite amazing.
I like to think that you and me, like our voices are like, as they're like turning the dial. This is like we come into focus. Banter.
Alfie. Oh, yeah, there we go. Got it. Yeah, no, thanks as always for listening. And please, subscribe to the apps. Share with your friends.
Yeah. We'll treat you a lot better than Alfie.
Yeah, well, we'd love to hear what you thought about Alfie, like I said before, and why you like it or dislike it. Let us know. Write some reviews on the podcast apps. That like always really helps. And the other thing we've got to say is that obviously we won't be seeing you until we'll be seeing you later in the week for the midweek show. So get excited for that. We'll continue the discussion about Alfie.
You sound like you've had a good first date, and you're kind of like standing at the girl's door, and you're like, oh. We'll be seeing each other again, won't we? Like, late soon?
Will this continue? I mean, I'd like to see you again. Do you want to see me again? No, you do? Well, that's great. Yeah, well, I mean, like, just subscribe to my YouTube channel, like, or like, just like get on my Insta for a bit and like a few things and comment maybe, and we'll take it from there. And
that was real audio from Brenton after dates. I'm just standing there in a bush just recording. I'm like, this is like great content for the show.
Yeah, I call my second dates the midweek show.
Jesus Christ. Brenton's turning into Alfie, listeners. Quick, help him. He's going to become sexist.
Oh, please no.
Oh, God,
please no. Anyone but Alfie.
But
yeah.
Actually, no, okay, that's a great soundbite. I want to end this show on. Just
Yeah,
like anyone but Alfie.
that's great. Just leave
I'll
it.
just cut it there.